Hey everyone, and welcome to Series 4, apparently episode 26 of the MSC Performance Podcast. Today is going to be myself and Mark to wrap up what is apparently half a year of a series with kind of a wrap-up of 2022, what we're looking forward to in 2023, bit of an outline of kind of what our training is looking like and what we're going to be doing over Christmas, maybe some guidelines for yourself to take away from it. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about kind of nutrition and training recommendations for your intro weeks, your deloads, etc. So yeah, quite a lot to get in. So how are you, first of all?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Luke. Thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, with the episode numbers, there's absolutely zero meaning or consistency behind what season it is and what episode it is. I think we just started it off with like seasons and episodes to like make it sound a bit more professional.
I think the season started with COVID. COVID started the season, then COVID ended, so we ended the season, then we had a break when we set back up, new season, but it's just been half a year of podcast, and we've just been calling it Series 4.
Well, I think this is the last one of the year, isn't it? So we'll finish off season 4 today.
Season 5 starts
season 5 starts Jan.
Fantastic,
which is exciting. But no, I'm well, thank you. I'm looking forward to the festive period. Some exciting things coming up at MSC, which involve Christmas parties and whatnot. So it's a good time to be alive.
I guess straight at the start, Christmas parties. We've got the members one, the Wednesday the 21st.
Incorrect. Wednesday the 14th.
Wednesday the 14th.
For the members one. The staff one is on the 21st.
My bad.
But
so what can people expect from the 14th? And should people be coming?
People should definitely be coming. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So it's very unusual for us to do a midweek one. This will be the first time, I believe, that we've done a Wednesday night. The consensus was that you speak to people about Saturdays, and so was off, on the Saturday the 3rd, and Saturday the 10th, Saturday the 17th, and it's quite hard to. Ultimately,
it's a logistical nightmare.
It's a logistical nightmare. You could go with it, but people are going to miss out, which is fine. It's the nature of it. But we just decided this year, I think because of that, and I don't know, it just kind of felt right to try a midweeker.
Your birthday as well. You normally go away for your birthday, didn't you? So occasionally
go away for the birthday, which is on the 17th. So there's a bit of. Yeah, I didn't quite know what I was doing, so that date didn't really sit well. You were away that night as well, we've gone for Wednesday the 14th. So it's a bit different, but the feeling is it's Christmas anyway. It's going to be busy out and about, and why not? Let's give it a go. So it's going to be 7 o'clock.
You say Wednesday is a funny one. I just went past the rectory walking back from basketball, and there's a Christmas party going on a Wednesday, Thursday lunchtime. So it's not the strangest time to have one.
No, not at all.
And I think it's getting more common as well. Like I think there's so many parties you have to go to, especially if you play for a team. It is hard to fit in.
Yeah, definitely.
But we've arranged some fun games. There's going to be some mulled wine there, hopefully some nice mince pies from our resident bakers. And it's going to be some good fun games. I think it's going to be a nice evening.
I think definitely get yourself along. Because I think you could be thinking, it's only a Wednesday, it's not going to be a big one, but it's going to be well prepped. It's going to be a lot of fun. Max is desperate to get the karaoke on the go, so we'll see if that happens.
I've started the hunt for the karaoke machine today.
Fantastic.
I messaged the guy.
Fantastic.
And we've got some fun activities. I'll give you one now. Tandem deadlift, which I'm very excited for.
That'd be good.
Yeah, a long time ago, me and Bart did 450 on a tandem.
Oh wow!
So it'd be cool to see some big tandem deadlifts.
You and Steve together on a tandem.
That would be perfect. I unfortunately will not be doing it, as I have a competition on the weekend after it, but I will be facilitating.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
we'll get a few little drinking games on. We'll get some good tunes on, some good karaoke. And it'll be a good crack. So it'll be 7 o'clock till, I don't know, 10, 11. And then maybe 9 if I'm a bit tired. And the option is there to go out afterwards as well, which I'm sure a few people will.
Mark, what is your karaoke song of choice?
Right. So, the Spotify thing that came up a week or two ago, like the whole end of year Wrapped. Yeah. So mine came up and I was going through it, and it's actually very entertaining to look through, isn't it? And I realised that there's nothing post 1993 that I actually listened to, which was quite interesting. It's been a very late 80s, early 90s, which is, I remember Sonia would be like, she used to put like 80 stuff on and be like, oh, this is from when you were growing up. And it's like, no, I wasn't.
Yeah, I was born.
I was
I
born at
wasn't.
the
Yeah,
end of the
listening to
80s,
this in the
but like,
clubs.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I've been listening to a lot of like later 80s, early 90s, like Manchester scene stuff, like Stone Roses and a bit of Ian Brown stuff has been quite cool this year. And number 2 was Johnny Cash. So I'm a big Johnny Cash fan. So I think a bit of Johnny Cash might
Yeah,
come
I knew
out
you were
on
going to say
the on the jukebox. So yeah,
decent.
we'll see.
I've never done karaoke. I've literally never done it.
No, yeah, I've done it a couple of times. Very drunk,
Yeah.
very drunk on Greg Stag Do was the last one, which
Nice.
was good. Yeah, good fun
Yeah, yeah.
actually. Good fun. Yeah, it is a wicked crack actually if you get into it. To be fair, so we'll see how that
Decent.
goes. We'll see who gets involved. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really really fun night. Definitely. Like I think the way I see it is, we're obviously still planning a few things, but I think it's going to be like there'll be the drinks over there, non-alcoholic drinks as well. Obviously, there'll be a little corner for drinking games. There'll be a little area where people are doing the fun deadlift challenges and things like that. There'll be Max on the karaoke machine on his own,
Repeatedly putting his name forward.
So like I think it's going to be a lot of fun and games. Yeah, a lot of fun and games. And as I say, I am more than willing to go out afterwards as well.
Fantastic.
So we'll see what happens.
Fantastic. You may, like I said, have to be carrying the 4 on that one. I will not be heading out. I have a comp on the Saturday. So I thought we could talk a little bit about kind of my training, your training, getting up there and there. So
yep.
What's the latest with your rugby? How's things feeling?
Yeah, so we're coming up towards the Christmas break now. So we've got 2 more games. Got a game this Saturday, and then on the 17th we have our last game, followed by a Christmas party.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously tough season for us. Sort of near the bottom of the league, but still with a lot of hope and encouragement from recent games. So we've got 2 big ones now against teams that are in and around us, that are very winnable. So we have to win one, if not both of those games, to be honest, to give ourselves a good chance going into New Year.
Yeah.
So the Christmas break obviously gives you a little bit of recovery, rest time. So last game 17th, and then our first game back, I believe, is on the 6th or 7th. Don't quote me on that, but it's around that sort of time. So yeah, it's obviously like a bit of a chance to regenerate and shake off a couple of knocks, but also quite a nice time to train in the gym. I was trying to keep that going throughout the Christmas period. I definitely don't like too much of a break, if any, really.
Do you get any recommendations from the club of what you should be like doing, keeping up the gym work, or?
Not really. I think with like with MSC obviously taking on the S&C at Bourneville, like it will come from us, come from myself and Max in terms of what we'll give the guys some recommendation. But it's definitely a balance of look, giving your body a bit of a rest, enjoying it, but also doing like at least the minimum dose of training to at least come back in some decent shape and come back sharp. For those who have played like every minute, it might be like they do a bit less. For those who haven't had as many minutes, there's a good chance to crack on. You have to be realistic as well. It's although it's technically professional and it's paid, it's not full-time pro. So like guys have got jobs, guys have got Christmas parties, families, stuff like that. So you have to be a bit realistic with the expectation as well. If it's like, if it's full-time rugby, for example, and it's your only job, then obviously you'll have a, obligation to be in the club on days X, Y, and Z and have, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days off or whatever it is. But so there's a little bit of flexibility and whatnot. But I think the general consensus is as long as the guys don't come back in terrible shape, like on the first day, it's okay. And it is only like a couple, it's like 2 weeks and then you're back training.
How much can you really mess it up?
Exactly.
I think you touched on it there. Is like it's very much looking for everyone at this period of time is like a quality approach rather than a quantity. Like your training will be down. You're obviously not going to be doing your rugby training. If you are getting into the gym, it doesn't have to be like monster sessions, just like a quality approach. So maybe less is more. You might want to get you might get an hour free and you might want to be in and out in 45 minutes. But the work that you're in the gym, like try and do it as best as you can, but you just don't have to spend like a ridiculous amount of time in there. So like look and really improve the high endest quality that you can. Like I said, the minimum dose, and like just if you have to get the sessions done quickly, or you know, the gyms are normally reduced hours as well. You obviously got more social events on. It's just when you are getting into the gym, making sure that works as good quality as you can.
Yeah.
And like I said, for most people, you're more rested, your stress from work is zero or as lower than it normally would be. It's a great chance to push on with some work, but then balancing everything else is more of an issue than it normally is.
For me, it's it sometimes depends on how the Christmas falls as to what I do, but I'll normally, as a general rule of thumb, I'll normally do one session a week less, sometimes even two less, but then just make those sessions I do longer, you know, a bit harder, etc. So it's very dependent. It's very dependent on where.
That's quite interesting, because that's literally the opposite of what I would recommend for most people. I'd be thinking most days you're stuck at home. People actually like going to the gym, I find.
Yeah.
If you're into the gym anyway.
Well, the thing for me is because where I go home, it's about a 40-minute drive to the nearest gym. So that plays a bit of a part.
You don't want to be going for an hour every day.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me to go like every day, or you know, 3-4 times a week, is like an hour and a half there and back. If you've got family up and stuff, it's a bit harder. So I completely get where you're coming from. And if I was based in like I am now, for example, like a 5-minute walk to the gym or something fairly close, I would definitely be up, you know, go to gym, get like a shorter session done. Whereas for me, because of the journey to do it, I'll just write off like 2 mornings a week on the Christmas period, and do it that way. I think the way it will fall this year for me, I could probably I might not even have to do a session at home. It might be like, I think the way Christmas falls, I can train
3 or 4 days or whatever.
Yeah, I can train pretty much up to the Friday, which is like the 23rd.
Yeah.
And then probably come back to Birmingham 28th, 29th anyway. So it might be that do a slightly longer week that week and then train the back end of the following week. So, okay, it's a longer period of time off, but actually week to week, I'm not missing any sessions. So yeah, for me, it depends on how Christmas falls, how long I'm going back home for. And as I say, I'd normally do it that way where it's less sessions, but I'm there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours and doing a good amount. And my daily thing is we get up, go for a walk, long walk and stuff, because that's just a bit more attainable.
Yeah, and I think while the weather, it goes dark super early, it goes dark at 4 now. You've got this time off where you can go out and get some sunlight. It's just a good thing to be doing for your health. So even if you're not going to the gym, just going out for a walk, getting some light, natural light, probably a really good thing to be doing. Even if it's not 10,000 steps like you normally would do, aiming just for 15-20 minute walks once or twice a day, that goes a long way, man.
Yeah, we're big on that at the Christmas period. Definitely is getting out, having a walk. I must admit, I think there's one thing that obviously we're aware of the importance of getting out and walking before this, but I think lockdown was big for that, man. Lockdown really emphasized to me how important it was to get out and have a walk. As daft as that sounds, and luckily I've always been someone who naturally walks a lot of steps in a day anyway due to the nature of what I do, but that was a big moment where I was a lot more aware of not being in doing the day-to-day. I was bloody hell, I'm just not walking at all. And, that made me conscious, and then that's really stuck actually. That's really stuck. I'm not a complete step goon, but we're aware, I was going to watch it'd be 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, and it's I've only done 5,000 or 6,000 steps. Let's go for a half an hour walk, and Sue's good for that as well. And so we're definitely much more aware of that now.
I think a lot of the good recommendations that we have now came off the back end of COVID. The other good one, when you're talking about the training, dropping the training frequency, is the amount of training it takes to improve in your strength training or whatever, comparatively to the amount of effort it takes to maintain. The effort is so low. All that research came out about trying to maintain your gains when you didn't have access to the gyms, and it was at the time 10% of your normal training workload is enough to kind of maintain the strength. So while that number might be quite low, depending on let's say it was done on general populations or people that were quite low trained, so let's say it's 30%. It means if you train 3 days a week, you've just got to train once a week to maintain your strength.
Yeah.
Most people, even if you're like an hour away, you're not going to be more than an hour away from a gym. Could do like some training, or if it's just like some training at your home, some bodyweight stuff. Everyone can do like a little bit, and that little bit of training, even though people might not think it's like much, it goes a massive way to maintaining what you've built up over the gym. So that, the main thing is when you come back in January, just like you said, at rugby, you don't want to come back in real shit state. You don't want to come back to the gym and be feeling terrible, having to reduce your numbers down 20%. So if you can just maintain during that period, I think that's huge.
I do a couple of runs as well, actually, during the Christmas week, because like I don't go out and run a lot because during the season, like I'm doing a lot of running anyway. But obviously, we have some time off that, and as long as I haven't got any niggles or anything that I need to rest, which I haven't at the moment, like I'll go out and do a couple of runs, which again is quite a nice novelty thing to do over that Christmas period. But yeah, it's
same idea, isn't it? Like your running volume's gone from like quite high mileage a week from playing the rugby to zero. So you come back in and the impact on the knees and the joints feels terrible.
Doing a little bit.
If doing one run a week, it takes you running from 3 sessions. You know, if you've got 2 training, then 1 Saturday, take it down to 1. Let's say you do 1 run while you're away.
It's interesting you say about how small amount you have to do to maintain that actually. And it's what we encourage like a lot of people at MSC, isn't it? With their training and with the barbell club and things like that. It's like we're working with young professionals and they're going through stages throughout the year where they're especially busy, for example. Yeah. Or maybe they've got a niggle, or maybe they've, just, got stuff on and holidays and whatnot. And it is like, we bang the drum about it a lot, but it's the importance of doing something over nothing is so important, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I can think of with the barbell, we've intentionally gave people a deload week, the week of Christmas, because we know most people it will not be a focus. And that's, probably encouraged to have that little bit of a mental break. You have a mental break from work, have a mental break from your training, but, tick it over as best as you can. So if you are going to the gym, rather than doing like your full blown sessions, like we normally give people, which for barbell club is 3 times a week, fairly meaty sessions, have a deload week, get in and out in, with 2/3 of a typical recommendation for your deload is drop your volume by 1/3. So if you're normally doing 3 sets, you drop 1 set, or if you do 4 sets, you drop down to 3. It reduces the time of the session by loads, man. Yeah. Get in and get out.
Lovely as well.
It feels great. Yeah. And during that time, like you can superset your exercise as well. Like get a bit of a sweat on. Like that's probably a good thing to do again. And that very much leads into the quality of the work rather than the quantity. So you're not going to do a huge amount of sets, but when you're in there, just be mindful, keep practicing your technique, keep your skill as dialed in as you can, keep sharp, try and move some decent tin well. And then when you come back in January, you'll feel a lot better for doing that little bit of dosage of training versus not doing anything at all.
Massive, yeah. So what about your training and how's that looking over Christmas? And also, obviously, competition coming up. And when would you take a deload?
Sure.
Over Christmas.
It's interesting actually, because I've never been in this position before. I'm competing on the 17th, which then means like the week after, because it's been ages since I've competed, I'll normally take the week off, which will then be the Christmas week, which is quite nice. Well, normally I'd probably have a comp coming up early next year. So I'd probably train fairly normal. I'd make the sessions a little bit shorter, but I would train 4 times a week still. But yeah, I'm going to pretty much take the week, not completely off. I'll just do some like 1 or 2 lighter sessions just to tick over, because I think the British will be in March. Well, it is in March. So I'll do like a little bit of training just to maintain that week, and then come back in the week after and try and push on as best as I can. Another thing to take into account is, unfortunately, like my training for this competition has gone so well, and I'm really proud of like I've pushed it super hard. Like I've been really mindful of everything, and I'm really happy with how it's gone. And then at the last minute, I got that cold, which I can't control, and I've strained my pec, which is super frustrating. So I'm trying to manage the pec, and I'm hopefully going to feel better from the cold, but just felt a little bit weak the last couple of sessions, which will then also affect what we're doing the deload week. Because if I would probably have to do a token bench on the day. We'll see how it feels. It's still 10 days to taper back. But I might have to take like a token bench at the comp and then try and push squat and deadlift hard. And if that's the case, then the next week after the comp, I'll just be trying to do a bit more of the rehabby stuff, and just try and get into a point that when I go back into my full training, I'm in a position to push bench press. So in terms of like tapering back, like you got a few different approaches, haven't you? But for myself, I'm kind of in like a step taper. So a month out from training, I ease back my accessories, the volume by about 1/3. And then the next step is I drop pretty much all accessories down to 0. And then that final week where I drop back the intensity and the volume of the competition lifts as well. So it's kind of like stepping down now. So like last week I felt disgusting. I'd done my heaviest deadlift. I've done one of my heaviest squats and I felt so tired. But then I've just started to ease things back a little bit and I can start to feel a little bit better already. So yeah, I'm on kind of like a step protocol for the taper. But the last week before the comp, I've got my heavy squat tomorrow. And then the last week will be pretty light. I'll do 3 sessions, but session 1 will be fairly heavy, fairly moderate squat. So like 80% for some triples. It would normally be heavy bench, but I'm going to have to see how that feels. Wednesday will be like a lighter deadlift day, probably just like maybe 80% for a single and then 70% for some triples, so super conservative work. And then on the Friday, I'll do like a power-based session. So I squat like 50%, try and be as explosive as I can. And I really like that session. Like the research would show that that's like can increase your performance.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of that.
Huge.
Doubles and triples and
doubles and triples at 50%, explosive. And more than that, even if it doesn't have a benefit, like it gets you moving again. If you've had a couple of days, because I train every other day pretty much.
Yeah.
If you have a couple of days, you're not doing anything, sometimes you feel a little bit stiff or especially if you haven't been out and walking. So it's a good chance to get moving again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Day before a game, I normally like on a Friday, I don't even count it as a session, but I'll go in and do like 10, 15 minutes of like med ball throws and work and stuff like that.
Well, the research that the powerlifting's based on is on field sports. Yeah. And like it's huge for it. I love watching James do it.
Yeah.
He comes into some sprints, to some like really explosive bench press work and some rows. It's cool to see.
Yeah.
The danger with the taper and then like the taper week, which is, trying to reduce the fatigue, maintain the fitness, and then having a week deload is it's almost 2 weeks without heavy training. I know you got the comp, but like overloading training. So like, that's why I like to do something that week rather than having like 2 weeks of not doing anything.
Yeah. On a comp week, what you mentioned about like normally you go heavy with the bench. How heavy do you normally go on comp week?
It's normally like probably... individual. For myself, I'd say like at the start of the week, if squat's 80%, bench might be 90.
Yeah. Deadlift would be on the lighter side, just because the amount of load, obviously.
Exactly.
In total.
Yeah, especially with conventional.
Yeah.
It's quite tiring. So on the Wednesday, the deadlift might be 80% for a single, then 70%. And the bench might be 10% down from that, so like 80%. And then that last session when I'm squatting like 50%, I might bench 70% still.
Yeah.
Because I always benched every session pretty much. But I'm going to have to see, like, that's my normal kind of protocol, but I'll have to adjust it because of the pec.
Yeah.
But hopefully I can get like a decent week in. I was speaking to Max yesterday and it's like, it's super frustrating because Monday I had a decent session, felt like my pec went again yesterday. Well, I've still got like, if you count it up, like 5 exposures to bench press again to get back to some normality.
Yeah.
So even if tomorrow is a light session on the bench press and then Saturday is slightly heavy, you've got 5 sessions to progressively build it back up. So just gonna have to see how it feels.
Yeah, exciting. What's happening next year with powerlifting? What are the big comps that
they've combined? They've combined the British, so the men and women are lifting together, which I think is a good thing because the schedule is just tough, man. So yeah, they've combined them this year, which is cool. That's in March, and then off the back of there, who knows? Like if you win it, you could go to Euros and Worlds, which is like June. My goal is to try and win the British again. I'm very vocal about that. The minimum, I'd love to podium. I'd love to win it again. And I think the training I've been doing has like led towards a position where I can realistically say I'd be in the running. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, do well at the British. If I don't win it, then yeah, fair enough. I'll try my best, and then I'll probably do another comp later in the year. But I think I'm at a point now where two a year is sufficient.
Yeah.
I think any more than that, it gets a little bit tough because again, you intro weeks you do. I was like, they just add up the amount of time. It's so nice not having the comps and having to push.
Yeah.
Without these interruptions.
Yeah. I guess as well when like you're at the experience you're at as well and lifting the loads you are, it's very hard to do much more than that. Excuse me. Much more than that because it just takes a massive toll, doesn't it? I think if you're like a beginner intermediate, competing a bit more regularly is probably a good thing.
Beginner intermediate,
the highs and lows aren't as much. Like the highs of a comp day in terms of loads and things like that aren't as much.
I think beginner intermediate, you're doing about four a year, which is if they were perfectly timed, is 4 12-week blocks.
Yeah,
would take you to 48 weeks, and then you 4 deload. That's perfect. It would now take me longer than 12 weeks to get ready for a comp.
Yeah.
So I think realistically, if you're doing 3, you've got to prioritize 2, and then one's much on the back burner. So you could have probably 2 big comps a year,
and train through one, maybe
train through one, or just like not really, exactly, not really push it. But 2 or 3 now, 100%. Yeah,
nice. With the deloads and the tapers, what do you do nutritionally that's different?
It's interesting. So like, we're going to talk about this as well. So the taper one's different for powerlifting, because a lot of times when you're tapering for a comp, you've got a deload, which is like at the end of a training block where you're trying to recover from the training block. You've got your intro week, which is typically used if you're going from like higher intensities into higher volumes and you're trying to get prepared for that higher volume stuff. And then you got your taper, which is kind of getting ready for some 1-on-1 testing or a comp. So the taper nutrition is different to the intro and the deloads, I think. Because for the taper, you've normally got a weight class and you're trying to make weight. So when I'm in my taper week, I'm in a calorie deficit. I'm trying to lose. I'm actually pretty light at the minute. I'm 75.7, which is like the lightest I've ever. Yeah, I am genuinely worried I'm too light. Gonna have a peripheral tonight. But yeah, so the week before then, I'm trying to lose weight. So I'll be in a small calorie deficit. I'll be doing a water load. I'll be trying to manipulate the gut weight. It won't have to be that extreme for this one, because it's only 1.5 kilos. But I think in the past I've done 3 kilos is the most I've done. So it should be very comfortable. But yeah, so next week when I'm tapering for the comp, I'll be trying to lose 1.7 kilos or whatever I weigh on the Monday. Typically in an intro and deload week, I'm a big fan of keeping the calories the same, because I think when you look at like the research of how many calories you actually burn during a training session,
it's minimal.
It ain't much, man.
No.
Like people think like it's a lot, and it just is not a lot. And I think it's really important to keep saying to people that if you have got a weight loss goal, doing your strength training sessions isn't going to be the primary mechanism for dropping your body fat. But what it is going to do is going to be a great thing to support kind of the look that you're going for, and to support maintaining the muscle tissue that you have got. That's what your strength training is for.
Yeah.
And then the calorie deficit, I know people say it all the time, you can either create the deficit from more exercise, more movement, or from training, or from eating less food. You're not going to get it from training, man. Like it might be, I think in the study I looked at last, it's anywhere from like 150 calories to like 350 calories. So it's going to be 350 calories for someone that's doing like high volume training. Yeah. It might be 150 for a beginner that's like lifting lighter weights, but 150 calories is half a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
So if you were looking to burn calories, why would you go to, like, if you're losing just to lose weight, you can either go to the gym for an hour and work hard in the gym, or you can have half less of a chocolate bar and you get the same results in terms of body fat. Obviously not from health.
Yeah.
Not for
the whole industry is like a bit backwards, really, isn't it? It's always that like people think you go to the gym to lose weight. And it's
tough, man. Like,
and it's certainly you can go to the gym to supplement your weight loss and as part of the bigger picture. But if you're going in there with that mindset of out training the chocolate bar, like you're in for a battle, man. Like that's tough.
It's tough.
Like, that's tough. But as you say, like doing your strength training to like supplement, everything that you're doing day to day is massive in terms of how you look and body composition and things like that, obviously. So
the thing is, then when you talk about like the nutrition for like the intro and the deload week, because you're only burning 300, let's say you burn 300 calories on a normal session, and let's say you reduce your volume down by a third. Let's say then, just to keep the math simple, you're then only burning 200 calories. You're really just going to reduce your calories by 100.
Yeah.
Let's say you overeat then by 100 calories for 4 sessions a week. It's 400 calories.
Yeah.
That's what? Not even, it's probably
it's not
50 grams, 50 grams of weight.
Yeah.
100 grams of weight.
Yeah.
It ain't much. It's like, what, 3,500 calories for half a kilo?
Yeah.
It ain't going to be anything.
Yeah.
But then you flip that around and you think, okay, well, if I keep the calories the same, my training dosage is down slightly, so I'm not burning as many calories. But like being in that very small surplus versus being in the calorie deficit or maintenance, like probably supports the overarching goal of trying to recover during that week.
Actually using it for
So
recovery,
if you
being well fueled and coming back on the Monday. Like
if your deload week is your recovery week, like the idea now is drop the fatigue down, maintain the fitness as best as I can. So when I come to the next training block, I'm feeling good.
Whereas if you're depleted and
if you go in with a massive calorie deficit because you're hardly doing any hard training, then you come back in and you're not recovered and you feel weak. You've not achieved the goals of the deload.
I agree with that. It's always the way I've run it. I've had a couple of athletes that have like really been desperate to use a deload as an opportunity to like drop a couple of pounds, but it's just
I'm not doing much training, so I don't need to eat
exactly
carbs.
And it's like, well, that's not the from an athletic like performance point of view, that's not the idea. The idea is to come back feeling regenerated. Like that's the idea of the deload. Like, you know, obviously we're reducing central nervous system stress, we're, you know, doing a bit less work, you know, we're not achieving the same amount of fatigue, but like if you just drop your calories completely, then
you're mitigating the training recovery.
Exactly, yeah. So,
and I think that's like the same with
like I say, you'd have to go very like, or at least moderately high in your surplus to put weight on in that week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And go for a couple of walks, man. Like do a bit extra in that sense.
100%.
Like it doesn't have to be a mad hike, but like increase your daily activity slightly, you know.
Yeah.
To offset that if you want to, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. If your goal was weight loss, then I would say go for a walk just to try and mitigate that 100 calories because it's low stress. It's not going to have too much of an effect then on your training.
Yeah.
But if your goal is performance, like I just wouldn't sweat it. Like it's not going to be anything in the grand scheme of things. Like people, when they talk about these swings in weights, like 100 calories a day times 4 days isn't going to do anything. The issue with you swing around in weight is Christmas Day, for example, when you eat 6,000 calories rather than your normal 2.5. You've had 4,000 calories extra. It's a completely different conversation between 4,000 calories and 100 calories.
Yeah.
So I think like when it's such a small amount, like you shouldn't really be changing your nutrition around to your intro and your deloads. The intro one's funny because all of a sudden, if you're getting you intro week prepared for like your high volume phases, then maybe you want to like, because the carbohydrate demand is going to be a little bit higher, the calorific and energy demand is going to be slightly higher. Maybe like increase your calories slightly when you're doing your higher volume work. And that would be the same for your intro week when you kind of step into there. But again, it's not going to be like, I need to add 400 calories because I'm doing a higher energy output, because it's not going to be that much of a difference in terms of output. But you might increase it ever so slightly.
I just think the basis of nutrition is just like so much simpler than people think, like over the course of long-term progression. Okay, so if you're thinking block to block, ultimately we're keeping it pretty much the same. Like we're changing, we're maybe changing small percentages.
Big time.
So throughout the year, that's probably no different. And then you think from like, you see all these guys are like training a bit more for aesthetics, or on about the bulk and then the cut, or the cut and then the bulk, and calories down, and then it's like, right, I'm going for a bulking phase, I'm going to shoot my calories up through the roof. And that's a massive mistake as well, because as you've alluded to, like the amount of calories you're burning during training isn't specifically a lot. So, you know, doing a big dirty bulk and whilst you're doing a bit more volume in the gym, like I just feel like the best athletes, whether that's like people who just look and perform well and don't compete, or competitive athletes, competitive bodybuilders even, like they're in shape pretty much all year round, and they eat pretty much like within the ballpark all year
big
round.
time. Like,
Christmas week, mate, I'm going to go a bit mad. Like I'm not going to lie, like Christmas week,
you had hard,
maybe not a week, no, maybe not even a week, but like for a few days, I'm going to bloody enjoy myself. I'll, without really thinking about it, maintain activity levels by walking, a little run, whatever it is. But I'm not going to stress too much, because like you come back, you get back on it, the weight's going to drop off. But I think it's just keeping it. Yeah, so the best practitioners are the ones who are there or thereabouts year round. They're consistent. There's not mad changes.
But I think about this a lot, actually. And I think like a lot of the times when people do these they say the dirty bulk, I'm on a bulk, and they'll talk about like the bodybuilders, and they're talking like off-season bodybuilders, but the off-season bodybuilders are still lean, man. Like they're in ridiculously good shape. They're just not stage ready, and being stage ready is not healthy. Like you cannot sustain being that low body fat. Like your T levels drop, your fucking sex drive drops, your quality of life drops. It's hard, man. So when you get back up to your normal calories and you go back up to your normal kind of body fat percentage, they're still in incredible shape.
Yeah.
They're not doing these Ricky Hatton or, Paddy the Baddy. They're not doing these stupid swings of going like super heavy and then super light. That has gone. And what has gone with that as well is like your old school kind of block periodization. I'm doing a hypertrophy block.
Yeah.
No one does that anymore because we know that in 4 to 8 weeks of a hypertrophy block, how much muscle are you going to gain in 4 to 8 weeks?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Half a kilo, if that, like, especially when you're quite high trained, you're not going to gain anything. So like, it's probably better to keep your calories around like a small surplus, small deficit or maintenance, keep your protein levels high, keep your activity and your training high, and your body composition will kind of take care of itself. Yes, you'd gain more muscle in a surplus, but these like really extreme high surplus, high deficits, just people aren't doing them anymore.
No.
The good people aren't doing these stupid swings. Powerlifters used to like off season, be like, I'm doing hypertrophy and I'm going to gain 10 kilos.
Yeah. Field athletes the same. Yeah. 100%.
People don't do it anymore.
No.
You've got your vertical integration of your training. So people are doing the dosages of strength all year round.
You're maybe biasing one way or the
exactly.
other. Like, from a rugby point of view, like I'd normally like reduce the amount of strength and plyo work early doors, but you would still, it's important to know you'd still do some. Like you'd still do some. So like, let's say end of the season, you have a week off the gym, for example, which I'd normally encourage, don't even do that. But if you want a week, that's fair. And then you sort of get back into it. But like even from session 1, it's like at least pogo jumps or box jumps, even if it's like 3 sets of 3, just to kind of maintain, some sort of
it's not the priority, but
some athleticism, like, and then there's a little bit of heavy lifting in there, like as a minimum. And then you might be doing like some, a lot of single leg work, but a lot of single leg, like unilateral stuff, trunk work, accessory work. But you're not necessarily doing that anyway to like do loads of volume. You're doing that from a joint restoration point of view. Like you're doing it from an injury prevention point of view, a health point of view, and to prepare you for the heavier loads, the reintegration into contact training. But you're not, as you say, like the old school blocks gone, where it would have been like, right, you're doing a 4-week hypertrophy, like in the rugby off seasons, like about bloody 6 weeks. I mean,
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? It used to be like, right, you're going to do like 4 weeks hypertrophy, and then like you got to do 4 weeks of strength, convert into power, and it's like,
so how was your hypertrophy block? Oh, wicked! I gained 0.3 kilos of muscle.
Man, putting on muscle is tough, man. Like doing 4
But
weeks.
like you said, there's when you're doing your pole goals, can you not finish at the end with like 3 sets of 12 close grip pull downs or some chin ups? Like you can do some high rep hypertrophy work all year round.
Yes,
but then your dosages just change accordingly. Like outside, I've got a comp in 2 weeks. I'm still doing like pull downs for sets of 8. Still doing like tricep work. It's not as high volume. It's not the priority. But then post competition, I'll still be doing top sets of like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So still keeping that top end strength in, but I'm really pushing the hypertrophy stuff a little bit harder.
But it basically is like do everything all the time, all year round, but you're prioritizing certain
what needs to be working on, depending on where you're at.
Certain bits, yeah.
If you're a strength athlete and you've got a comp coming up, you should be prioritizing the strength stuff or what gets you good at the strength stuff.
Yeah.
If not, then you've got a bit more room to play around with a bit more of these variations. And the same with the rugby, like in season, you need to prioritize being good at rugby. Outside of it, you might be prioritizing, like I said, restoration, or you might be trying to get a little bit bigger after losing some weight in the season.
And there's that little period in the pre-season, like off-season, pre-season, where you do like up the loads a little bit, and you do get you do get a little bit stronger, but you're still doing accessories, you're still doing the plyos, and like even if like plyos is like absolute bottom of your priority list, like say it is the first block of off season where you'd be like, well, why would I do plyos? It's like, man, just do it as a extended warm up. Do your warm up, and then as part of your warm up, finish with 1 set of 10 pogo jumps, 1 set of 5 box jumps, and some med ball throws. It will take you 3 to 5 minutes.
Grow up and do your plyometrics.
And grow up and do your plyometrics. That's the message for today.
I feel like every conversation we have, like we plan to obviously talk about introics. Every convo we have goes on to vertical integration. Yeah. Have you noticed every podcast we talk about vertical integration?
Yeah, it's true.
But I think that's a good...
That's how important it is.
Yeah. I think that's a good overlook at like intro weeks, deloads. We talked a little bit about like the volume taper backs, etc. And I think it's a good idea for your nutrition. I think it's very relatable to Christmas as well, where you might be doing less in terms of your training. So you might be thinking, drop your calories down where you can. Maybe you're doing that to offset the other days where you're eating more. Maybe not. Who cares? Like, it's Christmas. But like, if you are doing less activity and less training, like, it's not that much of a difference in terms of calories. Yeah. So you don't need to make any massive overarching changes, and try and prioritize what the priority is. So if it's recovery, recover. Don't worry about losing weight. And
and go back to vertical integration. Like, if this is like start of season September, like this is the third block of 4 weeks you're doing, for example, 4 to 6 weeks. And during that Christmas period, no games, no nothing. And that's where you might you might come back a little bit to almost like block 1 coming into mid-December, January, where you are like doing a bit more work. You're increasing, you're working a little bit more on strength. You're pushing the numbers up a little bit in that little Christmas period where, maybe you're eating a bit more and you think, right, I can actually push the numbers up a little bit. And then that first couple of weeks of January, even sometimes the whole of January, you've had that little rest from games, and that's a good chance then to push the numbers up again. And then you get into like Feb, March, April, and obviously you're just maybe decreasing that a little bit, doing the minimum dose, and you're staying sharp, you're staying powerful. So like, this is like the last block, if you like, of the first half of the season for us. So it's like, it's pretty much minimal dose with the strength work. It's a lot of like power, a lot of like speed and plyo and stuff, a bit less intensive, easier to, not intensive because it is intensive, but there's a bit less strain and load, but still short, sharp and fast. And then you have that little break of Christmas, and then we almost come back into like a block 1 where it's like, right, we're lifting some heavy stuff, and then that will keep us going for the rest of the season, but only if we maintain it at a lower volume. So
we're good. I have a final question. We're not prepped for it, so I apologize for putting you on the spot. But one of the questions I asked Max, and I'll give you mine before we get into it, is like the trends for 2023. So like 2022, I think the big trend this year was the Christmas party.
Parties outside of it.
The big trend for 2022 was hypers, I think. The year before was like belt squat. I think next year, the big exercise is going to be the barbell bent over row.
It's coming back.
I think it's coming back. I think that the optimal crew have gone too far with the single arm, cable, crossbody, etc. And I think it's going to come back to doing good quality barbell work. I thought this year has been great for machines. I think it's fantastic, like opening people's eyes to using machines for what they're good for. If you're looking for their hypertrophy, low skill, just pushing hard. I think it's been great, but I think it's probably swung too far the other way. And we talk a lot about the pendulum swinging. And I think maybe before everyone used barbells too much. And I think now probably people are going, quote unquote, the optimal crew. And I think the barbell bent over row is going to be huge next year. What do you think is going to be a trend or an exercise that's going to be trendy in 2023?
Okay, so before I think of something, I'm going to just, tag along the back of the bent over row and agree 100% with that. It's so funny how like things go in trends in the industry, and how like things gather momentum. I guess that's the modern world we live in with social media and news and things like that as well. Is like people started to think with the barbell row, the negative aspects of it, and like the benefits, obviously doing machine based work and mechanical tension, and are you really with an 80 kilo bent over row going to be doing what you need to do in terms of like cable row or single arm row, right? We can slow the movement down. We can think about almost like bodybuilding techniques of lengthening the muscle, shortening the muscle, mechanical tension, etc. But people forget they go all in on that.
Yeah, you can do both.
They go all in.
You can do a heavy barbell row.
You can do both. Like you can actually do both, and like it's mad to have seen the amount of bent over rows, pen lay rows, things like that. Because pen lay row like became the most like commonly used exercise ever a couple of years ago, and then it's like, right, nobody does that anymore. All your row work's got to be dumbbells, and like it's just funny, man, how things go. Like, and I get the arguments, like, and I agree with the arguments, like, to like 90% I agree with it, but there's like, well, hang on a minute, like you can't go wrong with a good barbell row. Like, it's
some of the arguments you hear for why barbell row is not good, like someone's like, you're limited by a position, your ability to hold position. I was like, who's losing
Who's
position
losing
on 40
position?
kilos or 50,
Exactly.
if you can deadlift?
Exactly. Yeah. If you're
It's
training,
not for everyone,
if you're training properly, and your everyday person who, like, whatever, you might stick to mainly cable stuff, but like if you're a decent athlete and you can deadlift double your body weight, for example, like, you're gonna be all right, man, with a row. Like,
And
you're gonna be able to stabilize that and hold that in a decent position. At least you should be able to.
then the other one is they say, oh, it's better to like do supported because save your lower back for when you do your lower back heavy dominant stuff. And absolutely, like, there'll be some times where I've done like heavy deadlifts and I won't want to do a bent over roll and I can do chest supported. But on the flip is like, if I can RDL 190, is my lower back really going to get that taxed doing 80 kilos, which is what I'd probably do for bent over roll? I think I'd be okay, even if I'm sore.
To keep to keep your position, to keep the discipline, keep that mechanical tension, not.
But then it's good to have the option to do both. Like, sometimes I might be in the mood to do it.
Having said that, I'm a massive fan of like
chest support.
A chest support row, like huge. But again, it's like,
you haven't got to marry one or the other. You can do both.
You haven't got to marry them. Yeah, exactly.
Have you thought about your answer now?
No. It's a tough one. I do agree with the bent over row and the barbell rows.
Do you want me to chuck some exercises that I think will be big? The ducted machine is one I keep thinking is going to be massive. And I think it was quite big this year. It kind of came in a little bit. Yeah. Maybe,
I do think adductor work in general, like, people are, a lot more on than they used to be. Probably myself included, actually. Like, it's, it's massive. We're obviously big for like Copenhagen planks, lateral lunges, calf work.
Could be big.
Calf work could be big. I think it's already pretty big, but like,
I think it's going to get massive next year for
calf work.
Your lifters. I think lifters are going to start doing.
I think lifters, it's been pretty big back in like field sports for the last few years.
Yeah,
is like the importance of calf work, because the argument was always like plyos, ollies, like, you're fucking nailing your calves all the time anyway. But I think doing some good isolated calf work is massive. And I must admit, actually, like, since I've started taking calf work a little bit more seriously in the last couple of years, I've noticed a massive difference in terms of just general, like, lower extremity health and how I'm feeling, like, especially because we play on 4G, we play on plastic, and it's brutal, mate, especially when you're, over 100 kilos and moving at a slow pace, but maybe slow to moderate. But like, there's a lot of impact. Doing like and training on that and playing on that the first few years, like, I'd always have like a little bit of like
Achilles aching.
I'd always have like, a little bit of issue with the Achilles and stuff. Nothing that like ever stopped me, but like, be sore to touch and anything like that, and just knees, calves, etc. So like, calves is big, and it'd be interesting to see if calf work makes it into a big component of it in the Olympic, like for Olympic lifters, doing extra calf work, and let's see if that comes onto powerlifters as well.
I think it will
go with calf work. Is that
you can?
It's a bit of a cop out.
No, well, I mean, I did put you on the spot. I mean, when I came with the podcast with Max, I'd already pre-planned my answer, so it's a bit of a on the spot. But
I'd like to see kettlebells make a bit more of a comeback as well.
I'm really enjoying
like, I just think it's such a useful tool, and with all the gimmicky tools that they've been over the years, kettlebells definitely isn't one. Like, I do think, like,
have you saw that
heavy swings? Heavy swings. Okay. Can I say heavy swing?
Yeah. Heavy for everyone, or
heavy swings.
Is that because you saw Squat University talk about kettlebell swings?
Ripping us off like usual. He loves ripping MSC off.
He did a post on how to do a kettlebell swing.
Oh, fuck's sake! He's always one step ahead. Well, one step behind, and then copying us, or one step ahead. But I've always been a massive fan of kettlebell swings. Always.
Well, that's why you saved.
That's been one of my.
That's why you saved us Mark Kettlebell in the phone.
Still saved us Mark Kettlebell in your like. I've always been a huge fan of heavy kettlebell swings, like heavy. For athletic performance, there he is, Mark Kettlebell. For athletic performance, sporting performance, and for general pop, we get the hips into extension, work the glutes, work the hammies, nice high hip hinge, That's what the everyday man needs. And I think it's a nice accessory for powerlifters, albeit not essential. Maybe the same for ollies, and for field athletes. Like, there's a low eccentric component, which obviously good for not building a lot of fatigue. It's an easy exercise to do, and go heavy on your kettlebell swings. Yeah, that kettlebell swings are making a comeback 2023.
To wrap up this podcast, because I'm mindful of the time. What have you got? What have we got to look forward to in 2023 at MSC Performance?
Yeah, it's going to be a great year. I think it's going to be. This year's been fantastic. First of all, I think we've come on leaps and bounds this year. I think next year's going to be big. I think there's going to be even more growth of diversity of athletes in the gym. We're seeing more and more rugby players now. We're seeing the powerlifting community grow, as always. I think the weightlifting side of things is going to get it's picking up a bit and going to get bigger. So I think it's going to be another great year for growing in those aspects. I think it's going to be a big year of community-driven things. I think there's going to be like big emphasis on social, which I think has been a great year for socials this year. I think next year will be even bigger. Metcon games, a couple of in-house comps, a couple of events, things like that. We'll chip away at new equipment, as we always do, as the budget allows. So I think a couple of exciting things coming in that respect as well. What about yourself?
Yeah, I pretty much mirror what you said. I think an increase in the amount of competitions we're doing in Metcon games, I think, is always really popular. I think there's going to be a really good sense of like MSC teams, like a powerlifting team. We've just ordered the powerlifting tops. I think we'll have some weightlifting teams kind of pop up with like, you got Jazz now. You've got name has left me. The Iranian weightlifter.
Yes, yeah.
We've got a few good weightlifters now. So all of a sudden,
she's like international class.
Yeah.
Like, she's
could we take a team of weightlifters to a comp?
It's funny you should say that, Luke. It's funny you should say that. There's just been a comp announced on the 11th of February in Oldbury with our good friend Mr. Sam Hammer. Not Sam Hammer. Sam from Oldbury. I can't remember what his surname is. But there's going to be a weightlifting competition 11th of February, and Jazz is going to compete. And we could have a few others as well. The girls want to compete as well. Maybe Lucy, will be their first competition.
That's class.
So I mentioned it the other day, like, would you be interested? And they were both like, yes, like they want to do it. So we might chuck them in that. They're so busy with other things. I don't know if we'll particularly train for it, but like just a different type of thing for them. So I think they both want to compete, and no doubt there'll be a couple of others. So
chuck a couple of names there. Get Big Mel. No, she didn't like
it.
But yeah, man, there's a few.
All of a sudden, I think like we'll take 5 or 6 that comp. For powerlifting, obviously, we always take big numbers.
I think the Bourneville rugby stuff could really push on.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Like taking people who are training in the gym outside of the gym to go and compete in stuff. I think
High Rocks as well is a massive one for there, taking teams to there, which has already started happening. So I think that
I think it could be a big year for that, definitely. Yeah. Weightlifting, powerlifting comps. Yeah. Rugby, High Rocks. And other, we obviously have our athletics guys as well. And do you know what it's going to be a big year for as well? I'm going to call it now, is youth athletes. We're going to push that a little bit in 2023. We've always had bits and pieces. We've always had like the odd superstar here and then, like with the youngsters. And I think a big thing this year is going to be pushing that side of things. Spring, summer. Definitely would like to get like summer camps on this year. We've been talking about it the last couple of years, but I think we're in a position now where we can, we've got enough manpower to organise it properly. And, Max is obviously training a 13-year-old at the moment who's like super talented. She's looking to get down to Birchfield. And I think things like that could be big this year as well, or next year.
Amazing. Wicked.
Should we leave it there?
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for a fantastic year at MSC. This is our last podcast now while we go into hibernation for December, and we'll be back in January. So thank you for your support. Thank you for listening, and have a great Christmas, and we will speak to you all soon.
I second that. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.